Hey everyone, it's Dawn Takacs here, the Streamline Seamstress, and today I want to show you how to make this gorgeous LED lit face mask for your friends, family, children, grandchildren. So to get started, we're going to review some of the supplies that you're going to need, and I'm going to demo and show you different ways that you can do this mask. So you can do the LED lights all the way around. You can also string them sporadically back and forth in like a zigzag. That's the fun part about it, is you have plenty of options. And the supplies that you're going to need, we're going to start with the LED lights, and I buy these. This is a 6-pack I bought off of Amazon, and I love the colors. They're traditional holiday colors, and it was a really good price. So I put that link below for you. You will also need 3/8 of an inch gross grain ribbon or grow grain ribbon. I know there's the story's out on that one. And your two fabrics, your inner fabric, your outer fabric, a nose wire for your mask, whatever your preference is for that. I've got a link below as well. You will need spandex because we're going to make the connections to this mask out of spandex today, because I find for kids that is the most functional and most versatile, and it's adjustable, and it's also the most comfortable. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But for this, you're also going to need some hem tape, and we're going to make this with a bias tape maker and one of our complimentary cottons that we purchased. Wanted to also show you that you've got an internal pocket here. So you've got two options for the mask. You can have the battery in the internal pocket, or what would be used for the filter pocket. I think for older children, teenagers, adults, I think that's fine. But for younger children, I have made an external pocket that will connect to the lanyard attachment that goes behind the head. We also have these filter slots. I've got a video on that, on how to make a quick and easy filter for your young ones, so you can just pull their filter out and put a new filter in. But to start, we're going to cut our pattern, and then we're going to take the inner fabric and the outer fabric, right sides together, and then we're going to stack all 4 pieces together. Yes, you did hear me correctly, all 4 pieces. And we are going to sew that on the curve at 1/4 inch. And then the pocket, right sides together, 2 pieces, and we are going to sew that at 1/4 inch on the curve. I'm now going to use pinking shears, and I am going to trim away that excess bulk. And as you can see, when I open this up, it's kind of like shucking corn, one of the viewers had mentioned. But when I open this up, it creates this gorgeous mask with just one seam. Everything is flush and in line, nothing's moving. It just creates this beautiful cup. And now for the pocket, I'm also going to pink this with pinking shears. And if you do not have pinking shears, again, there'll be a link for you. It's a great tool, must have for your sewing room. So I've taken my cotton fabric, selvage to selvage, going the width, folding it twice. On my mat, I'm going to take a ruler, give it a nice clean cut to get a straight edge, using my fabric weight. Those I had back in the factory. Must be 30 years old. Sometimes I surprise myself how old things are. And then I'm going to cut this 2 inches, the entire length, going selvage to selvage, and it creates this beautiful 2-inch strip. This is not bias tape because it is not cut on the bias, but we are going to use a bias tape maker to make hem tape. We are going to cut that on a diagonal on the end because it's just going to make it a little easier for us to slip that right into that bias tape maker. You slip it in the wide end, it comes out the narrow end, and you can see it's kind of folded on both sides. And then we're going to take an iron and we're just going to press. And I'm using my favorite retro iron here, and everybody always comments on this, so I found it for you. The link will be below if you're interested. I love this iron. It reminds me of the one my mom had. After we've completed putting the tape through the bias tape maker, now we're just going to fold it in half, and we're going to give it another press. Now when you do this, just make sure that the bottom of that press is just a slightly bigger than the top, just by a 1/16 of an inch. And now I'm going to take the mask pocket. I've got my Microtex needle in there that works lovely when I'm sewing cottons, especially any thick layers. And I am going to sew that hem tape or bias tape in, cutting it on the diagonal the same direction as the pattern. And again, I am just going to sew down the opposite side, making sure that I have the smaller side of the tape facing me and the larger side of the tape on the bottom. So now that we have prepared the pocket, now I want to tack it to the inside of the cup. And I'm just going to match up the top and the bottom. And I'm going to use a 1/4 inch straight stitch just to base that in. It's going to be a little bit thick. My pointer is going to help me with that. If you have any trouble matching this up, you probably have it upside down. That's a good tip with this pattern. And next, we're going to prepare the outside of the cup with some markings with tailor chalk. I am marking at 1 inch in from the raw edge all the way around. And then starting in the corner, I'm marking at 1.5 inches all the way around. Those markings are so that I can sew in the gross grain ribbon or grow grain. I've heard it both ways. I'm going to tack it down in the corner. And I'm folding that ribbon to that 1 inch mark that I made with tailor's chalk. And then I'm bringing it up to the top to the 1.5 inch mark that I made with a dot. And the idea here is so that I can keep everything balanced, that the length of the ribbon going towards the center of the mask is the same, and the spacing between the tacking points on the ribbon is the same. You could probably pin it. Again, I hate pins, so I am just going to do this as I go. I'm going to sew a little forward, a little backwards. And as you can see, I'm folding it towards that 1 inch mark and then bringing it back to the 1.5 inch mark that I did all the way around. And I'm going to continue this process all the way around the mask. This is the nose bridge. If you're not sure the difference between the nose bridge and the chin, the nose bridge is just a little bit shorter. Again, folding that ribbon to that 1 inch mark, and then folding it back to the 1.5 inch dot. And you can play around with that. Those dots could actually be smaller for a smaller child, but I think this works really well. Once we sew in the hem tape for the nose bridge and the chin, the spacing on it seems to work just perfectly. It's not too much, it's not too little, it's just right. And I'm going to stop here. I'm going to sew this corner down on the right side of the nose bridge, and then I'm going to start a new ribbon and go all the way around the chin. I'm using 5/8 of an inch as a seam guide for that ribbon to kind of eyeball it as I'm sewing if I can't see the tailor's chalk. Now I'm going to take the hem tape that we made, that's nicely pressed, ready to go, and I am going to sew that into the nose bridge. Again, that's the smaller of the two measurements, when in doubt. I'm going to do a straight stitch across at 3/8 of an inch. This is a little bit thick because we've got multiple layers of fabric, we've got the ribbon. This is a good time to use your pointer. The Microtex needle is going to help. That pointer is going to help me keep that ribbon nice and flat so it's not getting caught on the presser foot. And I'm just going to go straight across 3/8 of an inch. And once I get to the end, I'm going to trim off the excess hem tape. Back tack just to secure. And I'm going to insert my nose wire. Now I have a link below for these adhesive ones. I also use 22 gauge floral wire. I've used both with success. I like these without taking the adhesive off and just putting them in. They seem to slip right in, and the adhesive is, well, it's just like paper in your pocket. When you wash it, it's just going to disintegrate. So I think that makes for a really nice nose wire for your mask. And now we're ready to sew in. We're going to make the lycra strings, and we are going to cut this at 3/4 of an inch wide, the width of the spandex, or going with the greater stretch, whichever is more significant when you lay out your fabric. You always want to go with the greater stretch. Usually lycra stretch several ways. You always want to be cutting the string with whichever way is the more significant stretch. So I've cut and pulled my lycra string, and now I'm just going to tack it down on the left and right on both sides to hold it in place so that I can focus on putting in the hem tape. And as you can see, I've cut it on the diagonal. I'm trimming out the excess, and then I'm going to just tuck and fold here and wrap that around the cup. I'm using drapery clips to hold everything in place. I know people like magic clips. Working in the drapery factory, I just got used to drapery clips, and yeah, the link is below for that, and yes, they are drapery clips. People keep messaging me telling me they're hair clips. I'm like, yeah, they look like them, but no, they're drapery clips or quilting clips. So as you can see, I just went straight across parallel with the nose bridge just to get a nice clean stitch. And then I'm going to do 3/8 of an inch, sewing that hem tape or bias tape in. And yes, you can buy bias tape if it's easier for you. I know that there's probably some fun ones out for the holidays that would dress up your mask. I like this as opposed to sewing this and turning it right side out. First of all, I hate turning anything right side out. To me, that's just extra work. And I do like that the hem tape adds some substance and body to this mask. It really gives it shape and helps it hold in place the way that a face mask should. As you can see here, I finished all the way around to almost about 2 inches out, and then I reversed it. I went to the end of the mask, or the opposite side. I'm sewing straight across, and then I'm going to pivot and turn, and I'm going to sew down at 3/8 of an inch. Sometimes it's easier just coming in depending on the direction that you're sewing and the thickness of what we're sewing, and I found it was easier to just come in the opposite way, and I wanted to show that to you. And that's what the body of our mask looks like. It's completely reversible. As you can see, I did a straight stitch across parallel with the nose bridge just to keep that string nice and secure. And now we're going to take pony beads, 9mm, with a loop turner, which is again one of my go-to tools. And we're going to pull that lycra string through the pony beads. And this is going to create an adjustable closure for behind the neck or on top of the crown of the head, whichever the wearer prefers. I'm using 3 here. And then you can also put a pony bead on the end so that those don't come off. It's pretty tight there. I don't think they'll come off, but it also adds a decorative element. I'm going to add a pony bead, tie it in a knot, trim it close. Nylon lycra makes the best string. It doesn't shed, it doesn't bleed. It's extremely comfortable. Another needle, and I'm going to use a label from Buttons just so that I can thread that machine. If you did not know that, that's a hack. Sometimes the glare of the metal makes it hard to thread, and that's an excellent hack to help you thread your machine if you're having trouble. This is the panel that we're going to use for the pocket, and it's 4.5 by 3 inches. It's included in the pattern, and you want to make sure that you're cutting the width, the greater stretch. And I'm just going to do a small zigzag here straight across, and then I'm going to pull through 12 inches of the lycra string that we made, just so that I have the drawstring already pulled through. I'm going to fold it in half, and I am going to pin everything in place, and then just do a small straight stitch or zigzag all the way around. I think on this one I did a zigzag, but either or will work. You don't really have to be concerned about using a straight stitch here. It's a small enough piece, and it's not going to have any pressure being pulled over anything that you would need a zigzag. And I'm going to sew that really quick. Having the right needle is so critically important, and you want to make sure that they say universal needles. Needles are not universal. Make sure that you have the right needle for the fabric that you're sewing. That's the best advice I can give anyone that's new to sewing. So I'm going to put a couple pony beads on here. You can do this a couple ways. You can tie this on to the lanyard or the string, lycra string connection for the mask, or you can sew it and cut it on a diagonal and enclose it into the mask, whichever you prefer. If you're more advanced sewer, then that's something that you would probably want to do, but it creates this beautiful little pocket, and you can just turn on your mask lights. And as you can see, that's going to you're going to be able to just connect that to your mask. You can either sew it or you can tie it on, whichever you prefer. So we are almost finished with this video on how to make this mask. I'm going to take the lights, and they come like this where the wire is already folded, and I'm using that to my advantage to thread the lights in and out of the ribbon. And it's just a hook and loop, and so I'm just going in one side and out the other. I'm coming through the top and out the bottom, and unwinding the lights as I go. You can unwind the lights and fold them in half and then twist them to one long string if you want. That's an option. I think either works well. It's just a matter of what's easiest for you. And you probably have enough wire to go around the mask twice. The smaller the mask, the more lights that you'll have. And I'm going to turn my lights on here just to make sure before I go too much further that they are in fact working. That would be a pretty big faux pas. And as you can see, that also gives me an idea of the colors so that I can kind of play around with placement and where I want everything. I'm going to go back up over the nose bridge at this point. I want to thank everyone out there. For this Thanksgiving, I'm so grateful to our community of brothers and sisters out there that are sewing or learning to sew and have given me a purpose during this crisis. I thank you so much. Your friendship in this community means the world to me. And there's my lovely neighbor, Kennedy, modeling the red mask for you. And I also had her model the green mask, the one that I'm making now, so that you could see it on. And I'm almost finished here. I'm just trying to balance out my colors, being super creative and finicky, making sure that those lights are nice and balanced all the way around. This will be washable. The user can unwind the wires and remove the wires to wash the mask, so no worries about that. And as you can see, I've left what is the electrical part that does not have any lights. I've left that on the far right. Gives us about 6 or 7 inches to tuck into the pocket or the external pocket, and it just works perfectly. And that finishes that up. And then I also want to show you this really quick. I did this with the red mask, and I used a Stretch Magic, 1mm Stretch Magic. It's a little more difficult to sew. You have to knot in between the loops that you're sewing down, but I like the look. I like the opacity of it. I think it created a beautiful mask. I'm going to put this in the link below for you as well. Everyone, I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it inspired you to make some fun things for Christmas. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, ring the notification bell. God bless, be well, keep sewing. It's so good for the soul.